Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So I wanted to do this video, the part two version in regards to the question of are you fit enough to survive a crisis? In the first video, I just kind of share some thoughts on what I think about this situation, and I give some life examples of things that have happened throughout my experience of being a fitness professional, or things that I've seen about people not being able to escape crises. Here's the thing, we are now living in times where crisis and chaos is becoming almost normal. It's becoming not an epidemic itself, but it's just becoming a part of our daily existence. And the fitness industry, like I mentioned in the other video, has a bad rap because everything has to be so superficial, or you have to be like Boot Camp Bob or Sergeant Sally in order to be fit and do like 19,000 push ups in 20 seconds. And that's not the case at all. Most people in general just need a form of a baseline. So in this video, I just want to talk about some ways that you can start to prep yourselves to become more physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and possibly even financially more fit. Um, Physical fitness, let's talk about this. In physical fitness, you have two realms of fitness. You have muscular strength and endurance, and then you have cardiovascular fitness. We obviously need a bit of both to be able to perform activities of daily living. So, for example, you have to have some shoulder strength to where you can be able to pick up things or put things up on a shelf. You have to be able to have some form of cardiovascular baseline in order to walk, in a grocery store or walk up a flight of stairs. So, the first step to starting to get physically fit is to establish a baseline. So your baseline cardiovascularly is to be able to establish something light like walking or riding on a recumbent bike or an elliptical, something a little more lower impact, and seeing if you can do it for an extended period of time without rest. So for example, are you able to walk for 20 minutes straight without gasping for air or becoming so exhausted to where you have to take a lot of breaks? Will you be able to ride a recumbent bike for 20 to 30 minutes without having to stop and take long periods of breaks? So establishing that baseline is essential. So during this COVID-19 times, obviously, if you have a piece of equipment at your home, like an elliptical, great, you can start doing that. Right now, we don't have access to gyms, so we have to start walking. If you don't have a yard or a long driveway and you can't walk in your neighborhood or on your driveway, something, if you have a flight of stairs going up and down from the basement or from the first level to the second level, just starting to establish a little bit of a baseline by allotting 5 to 10 minutes of your time to walk up and down stairs. The other form of physical fitness is to not go from couch to 5K or couch to, boot camp class. You have to start to increase some stability and mobility in your joints. And how you do that is through basic, simple core exercises, basic body weight movement, where gravity is your resistance and load, and or establishing stability and mobility with things like TheraBands or basic, Versaloop bands in general to start to strengthen your hips, shoulders, and all the vital joints. You need to strengthen your ligaments and tendons prior to going into some crazy forms of exercise. People who are ignorant, and we live in this world where it's like, I'm going to get fit, so they're going to sign up for like the local boot camp class, end up injuring themselves because their joints, their bones, their muscles, their ligaments and tendons are not used to high physical demands of load. So you have to be able to start with some stability and mobility, some basic squats, side steps, hip bridges, bird dogs. These are things that I will go ahead and provide more links down below that you can look at different videos and stretching and mobility exercises that you can do right from the comfort of your home, even from your bed. In terms of surviving a crisis, or at least getting fit to be able to perform a crisis, you have to be mentally and emotionally sound as well. We don't have that. We live in a world where technology makes us very reactive. Instead of taking a deep breath and thinking before we speak, we tend to flip out, trigger the lower part of our mind, go and operate hardcore into fight or flight, and react to a lot of things. We react to bad traffic. We react to our phones and our laptops just going and shutting down and going, black screens and everything. So the first two ways of being the baseline for your emotional and mental soundness, or getting fit emotionally and mentally, is through your breath and your mind control. Now, if you establish a yoga and meditation routine, this is amazing because long-term effects for your brain and your breath work is going to be exercised in such a way that you don't really quite understand unless you go through these things through long periods of time. So, breath control is really important. We can just sit here and just do simple, deep breathing. What I recommend as a baseline is just to match your inhale with your exhale. For example, if you can inhale for 5 seconds, you match your exhalation with a 5 second out breath. So you can mentally count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as you inhale, slight pause, and then reverse count as you exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you can count mentally. So you're connecting the mind with the body and the breath, focusing on breathing into your diaphragm. One thing I've learned in CPR, before you start to assess a situation or a disaster or a crisis, one instructor taught me a couple years ago is that you take a deep breath and you say, I got this, and then you assess the scene. So one way that in a crisis situation, whether that's your kids are driving you nuts during coronavirus because you're working from home, or you're just stressed out because you're losing a lot of work, or you're just in crisis situations in a hospital, take a deep breath, take that 3 to 5 seconds just to breathe and say, I got this. That slight little pause is going to trigger some of your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest phase of your nervous system, which is the opposite of fight or flight. So the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight activates the sympathetic nervous system, and it's just that response where all the blood flow is going to the working muscles, it's going away from your visceral organs, and it's telling you to flee danger. When you breathe and when you go into the PNS, the parasympathetic nervous system, the blood flow comes back to the visceral organs. It's why when we're eating, we don't want to be in fight or flight, because the blood flow is moving away from the digestive organs and the visceral organs. We want that blood flow to come back to the torso and to the core and the power center. So in order to start to establish some emotional and physical or mental fitness is one, thinking before you speak, or just performing something like I got this before you react. So you're not becoming reactive to a situation. And you're starting to control your breath or exercise your breath. Your breath is like a muscle in your body. Your diaphragm is a muscle. It needs exercise the same way we have to exercise our biceps and our triceps through normal physical exercise. Now, in order to establish a baseline through some form of spiritual well-being or spiritual fitness, is to start to find those moments of quiet time where you can relax and reflect. So this is like the R&R, the rest and relaxation time. Some people find that through a meditative walk in the forest or through their neighborhood. Meditation doesn't always have to be sitting here in a simple cross-legged position, holding chin mudra. Meditation can be in motion. So some people actually meditate or actually become more spiritual through forms of movement, which is why something like the Camino de Santiago is a very spiritual form of travel and exercise, because you are literally walking and moving forward in life while going through these moments of reflection. So that reflection and introspective time is very personal to everybody on what works for them. For me, I sometimes like sitting in a hot Epsom salt bath, listening to therapeutic movement or music that you hear a lot in like Reiki or massage studios, because it really lowers my stress levels and it allows me to just relax. And whenever I'm relaxing and I'm feeling the warmth of the body and the salt is kind of working through the body, that in itself can be a little bit of a spiritual sense. So those are some things that you can also do in your home or your neighborhood, obviously, because places like churches and yoga studios, temples, things like that are not open during this time. So finding that quiet moment to relax and starting to connect to the breath. So the breath, the word breath is spiritus, and in Greek, or I think it's in Greek or Roman, that is translated into the breath. So our spirit is part of our breath. Mental and spiritual and emotional well-being are very, very linked up, and it all roots down to a lot of our breathing techniques. The first one, now that we're in coronavirus and we're seeing this situation where people are financially strapped and out of work, and who knows how long people are going to be out of work, because you don't know if restaurants and bars and things like that will be opening up once we go back to normal life. They might not be able to sustain enough business to pay the rent and their staff and their overhead, to where we really have to start thinking about financial fitness. COVID 19 is a big wake up call for everybody to start to take their financial situation seriously. The lower income people and the social inequality that is happening right now, COVID 19 pampers to the rich people. They can stay at home and still continue with their $10,000 paycheck that they're getting from Microsoft and Amazon, and they're isolated from this disease. The poor people, the working class, who make lower amounts of wages, have to go and work. These people are at a disadvantage because they're earning such a lower wage that you have to work. But to some degree, we live in such a consumeristic culture and society that a lot of people live within their means or above their means. So this is a time to really start taking your financial situation seriously. Millennials can be really good and really bad at a lot of things. And financially, I know a shit ton of millennials that are broke as fuck in their 30s. They still have no retirement account set up. It doesn't even matter if you're a contractor and you don't work for a company that doesn't have a 401k. Everybody has self accountability, and you can put 5, 10, even $20 away every paycheck into a savings account where it will earn 1% of interest. You can open up a TD Ameritrade account or something where you can earn very low interest through this time. Not many people have to invest in stocks. That's not for everybody. But this is a time to look at, do you want to live the rest of your life living paycheck to paycheck, or do you want to move above your situation? I'm not a huge fan of all these spiritual abundance programs, because in reality, it's just, it's very like self-centered, narcissistic, just in this me culture. Like, well, I want to earn 6 figures through selling my art course online. Meanwhile, we're taking advantage of the poor people or the foreign people to clean our toilets and to farm our land and to pick our fruit and vegetables. It's like we have to be a team player on planet Earth. So COVID 19 should also teach you to be financially fit on how to get rid of shit that is not a requirement. Cable television is not a requirement. Getting the MLB or the MLS station and all these expensive things is not a requirement. Upgrading to all these different apps and upgrading your phone, that's not necessarily a requirement. We do have to have a smartphone, and unfortunately, a lot of these poor kids who live in poor communities who don't have access to technology probably can't work with their school right now. Like, I don't know what you would do, because libraries and everything are shut down. But is eating out every single day financially fit? No. Maybe during this time you need to learn how to cook. There's so many free resources out there. You have to learn how to budget your food bill in addition to your non-Maslow hierarchy of needs monetary spending. So things like cable television can go. Who cares if you're bored during this time? It's your budget. If you are living down to the nitty gritty, you don't need that stuff. Cancel it out. Plus, half of these companies are price gouging, or they've been monopolies. Like, I live in Seattle, so a company like Comcast and Xfinity, you sign up at $39.99 a month, and then 6 months later, your bill is $89.99 a month. It's absolute bullshit. These monopolies have been taking advantage of people for long periods of time, but unfortunately, these companies also employ a ton of people. So you really have to look at all of these things. This video, the purpose of this video is just to give you like to plant the seeds of some baselines that you need to begin to think about. Some people have to work in all 4 areas. Some people are physically fit, but their finances are horrible. So now they have to, spend a little bit of energy rethinking this. COVID 19 is giving us a lot of downtime to sit and reflect, but also it's a wake-up call. It is a wake-up call to our immune health. It's a wake-up call to our physical and mental fitness, and just how addicted we are to everything. We're emotional high addicts, in this society. We are addicted to technology. So instead of sitting around and spending 3 hours on YouTube a day, maybe you need to allot 45 minutes of YouTube consumption and then spend the other 2.5 hours doing something else, like cooking your food or working through your budget and seeing, what things can you cut. That's just the reality of life. We live in a world of waste, and we live in a society where we are so used to being pampered with so many luxuries that we don't understand how to ration. People who lived through the Great Depression or the Stalin grain drain or World War I and II understood how to ration food, to give it to your community members or to give it to your soldiers. Now we're just hoarding a shit ton of toilet paper. Instead of changing the way you wipe yourself with maybe a few less squares, you're just hoarding, boxes of toilet paper in your 3,000 square foot house and saying fuck you to the rest of the community members who need toilet paper, who live in a little box and can't, doesn't have the luxury of storing, 48 rolls in their closet. So these are some thoughts that I have. If you have any thoughts or ideas on how you can start to establish a baseline, the purpose of this video, planting the seeds on how you can establish your baselines to get physically fit, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, as well as financial fitness. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. I hope you guys have a great day. See you next time. Bye.